Are you struggling to get your vocals to sound professional? We've all been there, scrubbing through vocal chains and YouTube tutorials to try to find the sound that clicks. But everything you do just seems wrong. For me, professional sounding vocals were one of the hardest parts of my production process to finally get right. And when I did, it made my song sound 10 times better. Which is why today I'm gonna share with you the winning vocal strategy for me that made all the difference. In this video, I'll first share 3 essential tips for some better vocal tracks, and then I'll share the absolute best thing you can do to produce professional sounding vocals. Let's get into it. Let's start off the video by going over some vocal production essentials. If you don't have these tips down, then the most important strategy that I'll reveal at the end won't matter at all. The first tip is to use proper post-processing on your vocals. That's the added effects, plugins, and everything you throw on top to make them sound amazing. While processing vocals, it's important to keep the sequence of the plugins you use in the correct order. The way audio flows through your plugins can greatly affect the sound and might also be the source of some garbage sounding vocal tracks. One vocal chain I find myself using a lot goes like this: pitch correction, EQ, compressor, de-esser, delay, reverb. Let me explain my thought process behind it. First, I'll change the pitch of my vocals using a pitch correction plugin to help my voice stay in key. Then I'll shape my vocals with EQ. This part is super important for the end sound. Oftentimes, I'll put a high pass filter on, dip the low mids around 500 Hz, then dip around 4K if it's too harsh, and then boost 8K and above. Keep in mind, every vocal is different and requires slightly different treatment, but this is a great starting point for most vocals. Next up, I'll put on 2 compressors in a row. 2 compressors with more subtle settings gives more natural sounding compression results. For both of them, I like to use FET type compressors like the 1176. I keep my ratio at 4:1, my attack is medium fast around 20 milliseconds, and my release is a little longer around 50 milliseconds. I'll adjust the threshold on both of them until I'm getting about 5 decibels of gain reduction on each. If it sounds too compressed, I'll adjust the mix knob on the second compressor to taste. If this sounds a bit too complicated, I've also made a full vocal preset pack to do all of this processing for you. With over 50 drag and drop presets, your voice will sound awesome instantly. Links in the description. Next in the chain, I'll put a de-esser. De-essers will help eliminate the sharp S sounds, also known as sibilants, found in vocal performances. And because we boosted the high end above 8000 Hz in our EQ, it's important to tame some of these exaggerated S sounds. I made a whole video on de-essing that you can watch up here or in the link below. And finally, I'll add my spatial audio effects like delay and reverb. I like putting delay first so that my delay goes into the reverb plugin so the delays aren't as dry. I also normally bus both my delay and reverb tracks. Bussing is a little out of the scope of this video, but you can learn more about it and other vocal processing techniques in this video I made right up here. If you're interested in upping your production game, we make videos just like this every single week. Hit subscribe so you don't miss out. On to tip number 2. My second tip for amazing vocals is to properly record them. If you're recording vocals in a room that could be confused with a shoebox, the end result won't sound professional. Good vocal recordings isolate the vocals and minimize room reflections and room noise. For making it this far in the video, give yourself a hand. No, literally clap in your room. You hear that? That reverb and noise you hear after the clap, that's going to be highly exaggerated when you start using a microphone to record. If you're recording in a cathedral and that's the vibe you're going for, great. If you're going for modern, dry vocals, that's not so great. The best thing you can do to minimize this room noise is to put up some acoustic treatment. I know it sounds like a lot for a DIY home studio musician, but in my opinion, it's the most inexpensive way to get better recordings and mixes. If you want to take the leap towards better sound, I made a video detailing on how to make your own DIY acoustic panels for under $30 a pop. Right up here. If you don't have panels, then at least throw up some blankets on the walls. Test out your room noise and reverb by clapping. You're looking for a semi-dead sound. But proper recording and minimizing room noise will only get you so far unless you combine it with tip number 3. We're almost to the most important tip, don't worry. Tip number 3 is getting the microphone right. When it comes to microphones, there are a bunch of different types that will give different results. I recommend using a condenser microphone for vocals. They tend to pick up more high-end sparkle than their dynamic microphone counterparts. But every mic is different, and every voice will sound different on different microphones. If you can, experiment with some different microphone types and models to find out the one that works best for you. Microphone selection is important, but also the way you sing into the microphone matters. I won't bore you with all the technical details, but you'll get the best recordings by following this outline. Aim the microphone at your mouth. use a pop filter. Stand between 4 and 8 inches from the microphone. And finally, make sure that no headphone bleed is coming into the recording. Those 3 steps are essential, but they're not nearly as important as this last one. And here it is. The best thing you can do for professional sounding vocals is nail the vocal performance. Even if you can't sing that well, there are some strategies you can use to help you sound great. Imagine if Adele recorded a song by singing it into her iPhone. Even though she might not get a lot of the other vocal production tips right, she's still gonna sound like Adele. She's still gonna sound amazing. Now, you don't have to be Adele to nail a vocal performance, and you don't even have to sing everything perfectly on pitch. Sometimes the best performances come from the subtle nuances of a voice that make it human. A voice crack during an emotional part of a song might be exactly what entices the listener to stick around. The vocal performance and the energy behind it changes the overall feeling of the song instantly. A vocal take that lacks passion but hits all the right notes isn't going to be as impactful as the one that bleeds excitement but sings the high note flat. And luckily for you, with modern pitch correction plugins like Auto-Tune and Melodyne, you don't have to worry as much about those missed notes. Also, luckily for you, you don't have to nail the vocal part the first time. You can record multiple takes and compile them together into one super take that features all the best parts. This is called comping, and all of the best singers do it. Some of the most important elements to get right in the vocal recording are the things that are hardest to change later on, like energy, passion, and the rhythmic flow of a vocal. Those are the things I listen for first when working with artists before ending the recording session. And I know if they get those right, then my vocal take is gonna be gold. If you follow all these tips, your vocals will start sounding amazing. And if you need help with understanding any of this, leave me a comment down below. And also, go check out my vocal preset pack, Vocal Magic 1.